Good afternoon, everybody. Raise your hand if it's your first ACR meeting or you're a mentee at this meeting. We are delighted to have you here and welcome. Now raise your hand if you're a mentor. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experience of this organization and this meeting. You know, in a time when we conduct so much of our communications electronically and online, what a luxury it is for us all to be here for the next few days together in our nation's capital, as well as the important work that we'll do when you, the Council, will set the policy and decide what our organization will be going forward. As well as that, take time to meet old friends, make new ones, but I think very importantly, seek out people whose practice is different than yours, whose opinion might be different than yours. This is really a unique opportunity. Let's make the most of it. Now, we did retool this meeting, as you heard the speaker say, to make more time for those kinds of interactions, but also, very importantly, to energize this Council in its important work. And I want to acknowledge the incredible slate of candidates that we have, and to thank all of them for their willingness to get into the arena. It is not an easy thing to do, and I'm grateful for them. I'm also grateful for all of you and the work that was so obvious, your preparation for the meeting that I heard in the caucuses that I visited this morning. While we're thanking people, let's thank all of our colleagues who are at home, keeping everything going while we're here. I know that I could not do what I do without the support of my incredible chair, Dr. Rob Min, and my wonderful colleagues in breast imaging at Weill Cornell. Thank you all. And then lastly, as Tim did, let's acknowledge our families, because we certainly couldn't do what we do without them. And I think my husband John's here, so thanks, babe. When I was taking this role on a year ago, people asked me what I was going to do. And I had an easy answer, because we've set a goal for our organization, and it's this. And I measure myself, and I expect you to measure me, on how much closer we get to that goal during my term. And under that goal, we've set priorities in areas that are familiar to you all, whether it's economics and advocacy, member engagement, patient and family-centered care, external relationships, research and innovation, and data science. And how we measure ourselves going forward and how we're doing is a process that we call our program assessment, where every new program is rigorously examined and every existing program periodically reevaluated in order that we can make sure that the ways in which we are using our resources and prioritizing supports our journey towards that overarching goal. And this program assessment process has been extremely useful for us as we've considered some of the work that the Council has asked us to take on in really evaluating the value that our organization delivers for us and that we deliver to each other. And I do want to thank the Council, you'll hear a lot more about this in Dr. Rawson's report, for asking us to take on that evaluation process. And I won't dwell on this except to say that I feel very proud of what we give to each other as members and the work that our staff does to support our professional journey in the service of our patients. And again, I'm probably biased as a former economics chair, but I think in the incredibly volatile political environment in which we work and the significant regulatory change that we're seeing, and especially with an election year coming up, I'm delighted that this organization has chosen to support itself and allow ourselves the flexibility to react and be proactive in whatever we need to do to, again, advance our profession. I want to talk about a few things that I've prioritized in this first year. And we've used this book, which is called New Power, to really think about how we can move forward as an organization that really opens up the conversation to more of our members and makes participation opportunities more meaningful. And that also breaks down some of the hierarchies that we know can make some of our newer and younger members feel perhaps that there's not a place for them at the table. And what this has done is it's challenged us to take on some challenging conversations. We've established a work group to look at the certification process, and this is a topic around which there are diverse and strong opinions. But I trust us, and I trust us to have a conversation, and I trust our work group to convene and collect the opinions of our community and to do extensive research so that the ACR can go into conversations with other important stakeholders in this, our colleagues and our certifying authority, the American Board of Radiology, and other stakeholders, so that we can make sure that the way in which we measure our professional improvement respects the sacred trust that our patients have put in us as experts in imaging care. But it's not enough to say that you are open to having challenging conversations, because when Jonathan Flug started this extra long thread on Engage about the fellowship process, it became apparent to us that there were some people who didn't even feel comfortable coming into the conversation. So a second work group that I have convened has taken on the task of understanding how we really promote everyone's comfort level and willingness to come into the conversation and express their opinion and bring their expertise. One of the ways that we do that is by making sure that the people in this room in our profession are reflective of the diversity of our community. And if you haven't had a chance to read this amazing report, and I'm looking right at Paul Ellenbogen, who was the original sponsor of our Commission on Women and Diversity, Kasia Matsura and her commission have done an amazing job in 6 years. This is really a wonderful piece of work. Congratulations. But I have challenged all of our commission chairs and leaders to think about diversity in a very broad way. Clearly, it's gender. Clearly, it's ethnicity. But very importantly, it's about practice type. It's about practice location. And it's about diversity of opinion, isn't it? Now, we are installing a new member database over the next year or so, which will enable us to do two things: to curate your member experience in a way that's as meaningful as possible to you, but also for us to make sure that our committees, our commissions, and our other efforts are reflective of the wonderful diversity of our community. But let me be serious for a moment. There is no room in this organization for bullying, for retaliation against people whose opinion is not the same as yours, and for any type of inappropriate behavior. Everyone here, thank you. Every one of us here, by virtue of our registration for this meeting, has undertaken a code of conduct for our professional conduct. And we have made a confidential ombudsman available for anyone who feels that that code of conduct has been breached. We'll eventually be turning that into a multi-society effort. And we have a robust ethics and judiciary committee process to deal with anybody who does not meet our code of conduct. I would not even want to begin to try and top that amazing lecture from Dr. Derby, but I am very proud of the work that the college has taken on in supporting some of the goals that she articulated, and the fact that we have made the Wellbeing Index available to us all as members. Of course, as she said, and as we heard from the questioners, this is just the beginning, but unless we start with data, we won't be able to design the right kinds of programs, and we've certainly got some wonderful programming out there already, to really make a change. But again, coming, I think, from my bias as Economics Commission Chair, and Dr. Derby said this, we need to use our power of advocacy to make sure that practice incentives and practice models do not treat us as widgets or commodities. That's not sustainable, and it's not something that this organization should support. We are physicians, and we deserve joy in our practice. I want to touch briefly on a big topic in economics and advocacy, which is the fact that the PAMA legislation, which was passed in 2014, will finally start being implemented in the Medicare program next year. And you'll probably hear a lot more about this from Zeke and his team at the Economics Forum on Monday. But, it's been, 5 years now since we passed that legislation, and we were working on it for many years before that. And I really think it's worth revisiting the history. Zeke just wrote an excellent column about this, which is that when I was Economics Commission Chair in 2012 and I spoke to this organization in 2013, we were coming up against a relentless assault on our reimbursement. We could not get anybody to pay attention to our protests that we were not able to practice with these, we would not be able to survive with these cuts. It was only when we started talking about our unique ability as stewards of appropriate imaging to actually improve outcomes, improve value in healthcare, that we started seeing attention and a different approach to us from payers and policymakers. It's been way too long in coming, this implementation, and it won't be perfect and it won't always be easy. But I'm always reminded of the quote from Bibb Allen, that we must do all of the imaging that is beneficial and necessary and none that is not. Again, our patients deserve nothing less. And I, for one, will encourage you to take up that challenge. I think it is something that we can really do uniquely and that we should take on. I want to talk briefly about lung cancer screening, and this is something, again, that's pretty personal to me, mostly because, thank goodness, I've never lost anyone to this dreadful disease, but because I was Economics Commission Chair when Medicare decided to cover this. And gosh, that was a day of celebration. And yet, here we are 4 years later with 2% of the eligible population being screened. We must do better. And it's a very tangled problem. The reimbursement's less than a mammogram. Our family practice colleagues are lukewarm. The benefit design with the shared decision-making and the fact that you can't do it in an IDTF, all of these things mean that we are fighting on multiple fronts. But I'm pleased to say that I have challenged our organization, our Board of Chancellors and Council Steering Committee, and our volunteer leadership, and you are rising to the challenge. Our Lung Cancer Screening 2.0 initiative is looking at all of the barriers and connecting with multiple other stakeholders. And I'm confident that by the time I leave this role, we will have done better. Again, our patients deserve nothing less. Lung cancer screening reminds me to talk a little bit about our research infrastructure, because we wouldn't even have been able to talk about getting reimbursement for lung cancer screening if it wasn't for the fact that the ACR's research infrastructure administered the National Lung Screening Trial, which showed such a significant mortality reduction. And one thing I wanted to highlight is the great evolution and advancement of our Nieman Health Policy Institute. When I look at this schematic, which shows that the Nieman Health Policy Institute is now located in multiple fora and multiple collaborations, I know how proud Dr. Nieman would have been of this effort. And with that in mind, and with a totally refreshed organizational structure, we have now appointed a new board. I want to extend my thanks to the leaders who took us through the first iteration of the HPI. And what you'll see in our new board is not only representation from our staff leadership, our Chief Research Officer, Dr. Pisano, Dr. Woodard, as well as our Economics Commission Chair, and then representation from private practice, as well as academic leadership. The last thing I want to talk about the fact that we are seeing incredible innovation coming from our community. Our innovation grant program, which was started by my predecessor, Jim Brink, has solicited incredible numbers, variety, and creativity and ideas. We got 68 proposals for our last round. We were only able to fund 5, and I know that that's disappointing, but please find other ways to get those ideas into action because they were all terrific. I want to talk briefly about external relationships because I know you'll hear a lot more about that from Bill in his talk. But as I think about my second year, this is going to be a focus for me, making sure that the ACR is in the right conversations and that we have the ability to shape our future in collaboration with organizations as diverse as the AAMC that we just joined, the College of American Pathologists with whom we're having conversations about integrated diagnostics, and the AMA. We were proud to be the first society that has content on their new MedHub. And as you heard in Hamilton, you have to be in the room where it happens. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Data Science Institute. It's hard to believe that the Data Science Institute is only 2 years old when you look at what they have achieved. And in the spirit of new power, I am so thrilled that what they have decided to do as their moonshot is to democratize AI, to make it possible for any radiologist to be part of shaping our future in a machine learning-enabled imaging care world. And please, while you're here, take time to check out what they're doing with AI Lab. Very briefly, I want to touch on concerns about how we interact with industry in this rapidly evolving space. The reality is, with $4 trillion of market cap of the companies like Google and IBM and Facebook that are in this space, we certainly can't ignore industry. What I will say is that every member of our Data Science Institute, as well as our board and council steering committee, has gone through a rigorous evaluation of their relationships and conflicts, and we are entirely transparent about this. We also have no financial relationships or exclusivity with any of the vendors with whom we're working on projects or collaborating. The important thing is the second circle there, the fact that our shareholders are our patients. That's who we answer to, and that's who we will always be thinking about when we have necessary collaborations and necessary interactions with industry. So here, I just want to give a shout out to the team for AI Lab. If you don't, please spend time on it while you're here. It's incredibly exciting. And again, this is us shaping our own future. One brief mention, though, I think that's a real statement of our commitment to our patients and to the integrity of our efforts in this space, which is our collaborative white paper, which should be in publication around about RSNA. This is us, I think, taking a stand about who we are and how it is that we protect our patients going forward. Very briefly, this is an initiative that I'm so thrilled that I was able to gently persuade, i.e., I don't know, push the Informatics Commission to take on. At a time when Best Buy doesn't even sell CDs, when there's no CD drive on most of our laptops, why are we making our patients get CDs? Why are we repeating imaging because our patients didn't get the CDs? So this, again, is a multi-stakeholder effort, looking at how we influence industry, looking at how we influence regulations. Watch this space, and I'm so grateful we're doing this. So my time is up. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address you. Let me leave you with a reflection on why we're here. We're here to learn from each other, but at the end of the day, we're here to shape our future, shape the future of our profession, and take home what we learn over these few days to help our professional communities, but most importantly, to help the patients we serve. Thank you.